Today on Rescue USA. When a 7.0 earthquake hits Anchorage,
the big boom came and everything started shaking.
The students jump into action to help each other.
The terror, it just made me turn into this protective state, and I threw myself over my friend to protect her from the falling debris.
And later, Hurricane Florence floods the Carolinas, forcing this grandmother to take cover.
That tree may fall on my house, and I have little people living with me. I think that we need to be in a shelter.
And this cow to swim for its safety.
Oh no, he's struggling right now.
Alaska is the largest state in the nation. We all know that, but few people know that they have more earthquakes than any other. They happen in the last frontier so frequently that all the students in Alaska are drilled every year on how to deal with the ground-shaking catastrophes. That knowledge came in very handy when the city of Anchorage was rocked by a major earthquake.
Most kids would probably think that the students at King Tech High School in Anchorage are extremely lucky. That's because they attend a special veterinary assistant class where they get hands-on training with furry friends every single day.
I've always had a passion for working with animals, and so when it was offered up as a class, I was like, what? I'm a lot better with animals than I am with people.
To see my students going to college to become veterinarians or working in the field has been absolutely amazing. I have a student who works on my own dog when I take my dog to the vet because she's a vet assistant there now, so that's pretty cool.
On the morning of November 30th, 2018, class was interrupted, not by a rowdy retriever, but by the earth actually moving.
That morning, we had just gotten back from taking the dogs on their morning walk, and I was with a friend standing in the middle of the room.
Being on the second floor, you know, carts go by, our room kind of trembles, so when it first started happening, all of us just kind of thought that a cart was going by or someone was shaking their leg and it started to move. We all just kind of stopped what we were doing, and then it really started to sway.
And then the big boom came and everything started shaking.
An earthquake was rocking Alaska. The main focus, or epicenter, was just 10 miles north of Anchorage, the largest city in the state. Doing damage to businesses and homes across the region, it reached 7.0 on the Richter scale, big enough to qualify as a major event.
The Earth has a dozen or so major what we call plates, which are sort of pieces of the Earth's crust that kind of move around with respect to each other. Alaska lies where these plates are moving in lots of ways that generate lots of earthquakes and volcanoes.
The Richter scale is that numerical representation of an earthquake's actual strength, and it ranges from 1.0 to 9.0 and beyond. For Anchorage's earthquake to be registered as a 7.0 means it was a monster, causing serious damage and destruction. The impact of the earthquake inside the school was immediate and overwhelming.
Part of the ceiling fell probably about a foot or two away from where I was.
Luckily this day, only 3 dogs showed up. They were running back and forth and we were trying to get them under the tables, but they were not having it.
We went into our emergency action protocol and students did a fabulous job, and staff. Everyone stayed calm because we practiced for it.
So we teach them that they need to drop, cover, and hold. So they need to get under a sturdy table. We make sure that we're covering our neck with one hand, and then we're also holding on to the table.
All the ceiling tiles started falling out, and the tables were shaking but moving across the room, so there was nothing over us anymore. And I looked over and remembered seeing my friend's face. The terror, it just made me turn into this protective state, and I threw myself over her to protect her from the falling debris.
And I see them as my kids. I mean, I know that they're just my students, but they're also my kids. So protecting all of them, I think, was first and foremost on my mind. I was scared for myself, I was scared for my own family, but I had to trust that the teachers at their schools were taking care of them the way we take care of our students here. Once the shaking stopped, we heard the announcement to evacuate. Each group is assigned one dog with our class. They knew who their dog was, they knew where leashes were, so they got their dogs on a leash and we all evacuated.
Destiny grabbed the leash of that last remaining dog and headed out. But evacuating during an earthquake can be risky because the disaster itself can cause other hazards.
It's often said that earthquakes don't kill people, buildings do. And so if you're in a building, you want to have a strong building to begin with, but secondly, you want to be in a safe place in the middle of the earthquake. Another thing is that, sometimes the buildings can be totally solid, but it's the stuff in the buildings that are the worry.
As this security footage shows, the ordeal was not over for the kids and canines at King Tech High School.
On our way out, there was a brick wall that had blown over, and so we had to run through it.
On November 30th, 2018, Anchorage, Alaska was rocked by a major earthquake that registered 7.0 on the Richter scale, damaging roads and buildings across the region, including King Tech Senior High School.
The whole ceiling kind of fell down. There were air conditioning vents that were hanging down.
Veterinary student Destiny Richardson and her classmates were able to help 3 very frightened dogs find their way to safety despite a brick wall destroyed in the quake.
And I think that might have been the most eerie part, was getting out into the hallway and see that wall just crumbled to the ground. We had to run through it and get outside. And from there, it was just a matter of trying to calm the dogs down and make them feel like the world wasn't coming down around them anymore.
It was amazing to watch the calmness and everyone doing what they should be doing. I think the composure of everyone, I was quite impressed and proud of everybody here.
The importance of emergency preparedness cannot be overstated. That was a major earthquake. Millions of dollars of damage was done throughout the Anchorage School District, but there were 0 major injuries. The faculty, staff, and students at King Tech and all the other schools really did a great job.
Even though the school was damaged, students were able to return just a few days later, but they are still processing what happened, in part because major earthquakes spawn so many aftershocks.
When you have a big earthquake, you expect there to be these smaller aftershocks that occur for some period of time, and they can go on for years. I mean, there could be aftershocks from this event for a couple of years.
One way students at King Tech have coped with the emotional after effects is by pulling together as a community, both 2-legged and 4-legged friends.
Our animals, they can't speak. They have body language, they have behaviors that we need to recognize, and that's their language. So we speak for those animals. It's one of the things that we try to teach our students in this particular class is we need to be heroes for our pets, which I think all of our students really, really were that day.
We see animals as pets, but I feel like companions are a better word because they're not here just to be our pets. They're here to help us cope through the world and give us a sense of selflessness.
First responders prepare themselves and all of us ahead of the next big natural disaster by studying and planning. Like in hurricane country or the southeastern United States, they have public safety as priority number 1. And of course, when another big storm was headed toward the Carolinas, the first responders there were ready to jump in and fight back.
In September of 2018, the Carolinas were bracing for the arrival of Hurricane Florence. Hurricane season in the United States runs from the beginning of June until the end of November, peaking around mid-August through September. In any given year, roughly 6 hurricanes make landfall, half of which are generally large enough to be categorized as major hurricanes, causing catastrophic damage with extreme winds and serious flooding. Hurricane Florence was growing into a major hurricane. picking up speed and power as it swept north and west from the Atlantic Ocean, targeting the Carolinas.
The predictions is it's going to be the worst that we've ever had, so that's very scary to us. Preparation is the biggest thing, and we've been doing that for years. We just didn't start last week. Property can be replaced, but lives can't.
In times of crisis, our first responders are constantly going above and beyond the call of duty and risking their lives to save yours.
We have a senior citizen program called Project Hope, Help Our Precious Elderly. The officers assigned to that program are making sure our seniors are okay, have what they need.
With torrential rains steadily moving inland, Project Hope kicked into high gear.
We received a call in reference to an elderly lady and her two grandkids wanting to evacuate her home to the shelter before the water and the weather gets really, really bad.
Linda McCulveen is a grandmother and guardian of 2 children. She lives in Lake City and had reached out for help.
I have a huge oak tree in my front yard, and I thought, you know, if it rains enough and a little bit of wind comes, that tree may fall on my house. And I have little people living with me, and I think that we need to be in a shelter.
2 members of the Lake City Police Department, Sergeant Belita Salters and Sergeant Nathan Poston, were there and ready to help Linda and her grandkids evacuate.
Can somebody get shoes on him? His old boy's still popping.
Where are they at?
Can I borrow these next time?
Can these items go ahead and go? Okay.
The roots of our police and fire departments are truly based in the communities they serve. It's amazing to see how much stronger our communities are when there's positive interaction and clear lines of communication between the citizens and our first responders.
As the hurricane roared ashore, the first responders were thankfully able to evacuate them from their home and safely transport Linda and her grandchildren to a storm shelter. There, they could ride it out safely.
I did not want them to have memories of being so horrified or near-death experience or anything like that. So I thought this was the thing to do, to come to a shelter.
By the time Hurricane Florence finally hit land, the storm had thankfully dissipated from a Category 4 to a Category 1, with winds gusting to about 90 miles per hour. But this also meant that Florence was now moving at a slow crawl, dumping a substantial amount of rain all across the Carolinas. It also meant that plenty of folks on the East Coast were on high alert for flooding, including Mike Stura, a former truck driver turned animal rescuer.
I am the founder and president of Skylands Animal Sanctuary in Wantage, New Jersey. And I rescue animals, and we rehabilitate them and give them lifelong homes.
Mike's facility, however, doesn't house the animals normally associated with an animal shelter.
We have cows, goats, sheep, pigs, chickens, turkeys, ducks, and 1 goose, Ted.
As he watched the reports flowing in on the news, Mike decided he wasn't just going to sit by and watch.
You start wondering, I know there are a tremendous amount of farm animals down that way. Can we be of any help?
Mike already had animal rescue experience with Hurricane Harvey in 2017, so he knew what to expect.
This time, thinking it was going to be a little different, thinking there would be a tremendous amount of flooding, we took our rescue boat.
The key? Make his journey into the hurricane just at the right time.
You don't want to go too soon and then be someone who needs to be rescued. The worst thing you could do, I think, is add to the burden of the first responders and make them have to help you.
In September 2018, Hurricane Florence dumped record-setting amounts of rain for North and South Carolina. Even before the widespread flooding began, first responders had done everything they could to prepare for the storm and avert disaster.
We created a team, it's called a strike team, and we have all the equipment to be able to get anywhere we need to be and then rescue those people and give them what they need.
And there to help rescue innocent animals, Mike Stura. Driving all the way down from New Jersey, navigating through water-covered roads in North Carolina, he and his fellow volunteers, Dave and Todd, were about to make their first rescue of the trip.
A local woman contacted us and said they saw cows on a porch of a house, and then next to them was a little barn, and they were swimming, and they were like bobbing up and down in the water. and it wasn't good.
Oh, no.
With the help of the local police, Mike was able to contact the farmer who owned the cows and then attempt a rescue operation.
He's struggling right now. Come on, sweetie.
Mike maneuvered his boat closer and saw 3 scared cows treading water.
Come on, sweetie. Come on. Here we go.
Immediately, as if they knew that Mike was there to help, one of the stranded cows moved toward the boat.
And as she turns around, I let go of the wheel and I jumped over and grabbed her over the back of the boat. I grabbed her by the head.
Just moments ago, this 850-pound animal had been swimming for her life, but now was thankfully being towed to safety by the crew of courageous volunteers.
We got somebody. We're gonna save someone.
With the help of some neighbors, the exhausted cow was lifted into Mike's trailer. Now she was safe, and as the storm passed and the floodwaters receded, Mike tried to calm her down before they made a long journey to her new home in New Jersey.
And you're dry now? You're gonna be okay, baby. I'll look after you now.
The physical damage left in Florence's path was overwhelming. The storm became the wettest to ever sweep across the Carolinas, dropping more than 35 inches of rain in one town alone. Returning home following the evacuation, Linda McCulveen feared that her house was crushed by the damaging storm. Thankfully, the oak tree that she and her grandchildren feared had fallen was still standing, and her home intact and secure for their return.
I am on the way to check on Miss Linda and the grandkids. Well, how are you? How are you? Good.
We're gonna have a tea party.
We're gonna have a tea party. I'm excited.
And for Linda, she will always remember the officers who helped her that day.
I'm sure they just thought they were doing their job, but I felt like they were heroes for me. I was very glad to see them.
And after all that intense preparation for the hurricane, Sergeant Salters is happy to file one last report.
Everybody was good in Lake City.
Awesome. And after making the long drive from South Carolina to Skylands Animal Sanctuary in New Jersey, this cow is adjusting to a new home and a new name, Red.
Everybody's excited to see the new kid.
But now I'm sure you're wondering, why on earth is a black cow named Red? It's simple, really. This big-hearted man wound up naming 2 of his favorite cows after his own human parents.
I rescued a boy last year, a male, a bull, from Hurricane Harvey, and I named him Babe. And that was my father's nickname when he was young. So I got this little girl, and I named her Red because that was my mother's nickname.
For Mike, rescuing these magnificent animals will be a lifelong quest.
We love to save someone, and we love for then people to come and see them as individuals, because we don't see them that way. You know, usually we see cows or chickens or whoever as, look, chickens, look, cows. So that's what I do. I like to put a name and a face together and a story so that people can see who they are, not just what they are.
Move it, move it, move it. Louie. Thanks, Lou.
Today, we saw the awesome power that the Earth is capable of unleashing. We also saw the power of being prepared. You too can be prepared. Just ask the first responders in your town. I'm Ginger Z. Thank you so much for watching.